The fluorescent lights of the grocery store buzzed overhead like angry wasps, their harsh glare making everything look slightly green and sickly. I shifted my weight from one swollen foot to the other, feeling the ache travel up my spine as I stood behind the register, scanning items with mechanical precision. Beep, beep, beep. The sound had become the soundtrack of my existence for the past 8 months. Monotonous, predictable, safe. Safe. That word tasted bitter on my tongue now. My hand instinctively moved to the swell of my belly beneath the oversized employee vest, a gesture I'd trained myself to suppress during working hours. 7 months along, and I could still hide it under baggy clothes, though not for much longer. The baby, my baby, kicked against my palm, a reminder that some secrets couldn't stay buried forever. "Ma'am, are you listening?" The customer's voice cut through my thoughts, sharp and impatient. "I'm sorry, yes." I forced a smile that felt like cracking plaster. "Your total is $43.75. As she snatched her bags and huffed away, I exhaled slowly, gripping the edge of the counter. The store smelled of disinfectant and overripe bananas, artificial pine from the cleaning aisle mixing with the earthiness of the produce section. It was nothing like the penthouse, all Italian leather and expensive cologne, crystal decanters of whiskey that cost more than I now made in 6 months. Don't think about him. But how could I not? Every dark-haired man who walked through those automatic doors made my heart stutter. Every black car in the parking lot sent ice down my spine. It had been 9 months since I'd signed those divorce papers with trembling hands. 9 months since I'd walked away from Dante Moretti with nothing but the clothes on my back and a secret growing inside me. 9 months since I'd discovered who he really was. The memory surfaced unbidden. Stumbling upon his study door left ajar, seeing him in that chair like a king on a throne, surrounded by men who looked like they'd stepped out of a nightmare. The gun on his desk, the spreadsheets that weren't for his import business, the coldness in his eyes when he'd looked up and seen me standing there, frozen in the doorway. "You weren't supposed to see this, Dolcezza." That word, the endearment he'd whispered against my skin 1,000 times, had sounded like a death sentence that night. I shook my head, forcing myself back to the present. The checkout line was empty now, just me and the industrial hum of the refrigeration units. My shift supervisor, Marcus, was somewhere in the back, probably sneaking a cigarette. I had 10 minutes before my break. 10 minutes before I could sit down and take the weight off my aching feet. The automatic doors whooshed open. I didn't look up immediately, just reached for my scanner, ready to begin the familiar ritual. But something made me pause, a shift in the air, a change in pressure like before a storm. The scent hit me first, expensive fabric, sandalwood cologne, and something darker, more dangerous, something that made my hands start to shake. No, it can't be. I raised my eyes slowly, and the world tilted sideways. 3 men in dark suits walked through the entrance like predators entering a cage of prey. But it was the man in the center who made my breath catch in my throat, who made the baby inside me kick frantically as if sensing my terror. Dante Moretti looked exactly as I remembered, and nothing like I'd tried to forget. Taller than everyone else, his frame commanding attention even in stillness. A charcoal suit that probably cost more than my car, back when I'd had a car. Dark hair swept back from a face that could have been carved from marble by a Renaissance master with a cruel streak. And those eyes, God, those eyes, like black ice, scanning the store with the same calculating assessment I'd seen him use on men begging for their lives. He hadn't seen me yet. He was talking to the man on his left, his head tilted slightly, listening to something being murmured in his ear. The man on his right, tall, scarred, built like a concrete wall, had his hand inside his jacket. Security. Always security. My heart hammered against my ribs so hard I thought they might crack. I could duck down, hide behind the register, pretend I was checking inventory. I could run to the back, claim I was sick, slip out through the employee exit before he... His gaze swept across the checkout lanes and locked onto mine. Everything stopped. The buzzing lights, the piped-in music, my own heartbeat. For one infinite second, we simply stared at each other across the expanse of discount linoleum, and clearance displays. I watched emotions flicker across his face too quickly to name. Surprise, recognition, something darker that made my stomach clench. Then his eyes dropped, down from my face to my body, to the counter that separated us, and his expression didn't change, but something shifted in the set of his shoulders, the angle of his jaw. Even from this distance, I could see his hands curl into fists at his sides. The man next to him said something, touched his arm, but Dante didn't respond. He just kept staring at my belly, at the secret I'd hidden for 9 months, at the evidence of what I'd done, what I'd taken from him. I should have run, should have grabbed my purse from under the counter and bolted for the exit. But my feet had grown roots, my body betraying me the way it always had around him. All I could do was stand there, one hand unconsciously moving to protect my stomach, as Dante Moretti began walking toward me. His men fell into step behind him, and every customer between us seemed to instinctively move aside. It was like watching the Red Sea part, except instead of salvation, destruction was heading straight for me. His footsteps were silent, expensive Italian leather on cheap tile, but I could feel each one like an earthquake tremor. He stopped at my register. Up close, I could see the details I'd tried to forget. The small scar above his left eyebrow from a childhood fight, the way his jaw tightened when he was controlling his temper, the gold signet ring on his right hand that bore his family crest. The same ring that had left indentations on my skin when he'd held my face and kissed me like I was oxygen and he was drowning. Isabel. His voice was exactly as I remembered. Smooth as aged whiskey, with an edge that could cut glass, not a question. Just my name, spoken like an accusation, a prayer, a curse. I opened my mouth, but no sound came out. What could I possibly say? Surprise? You're going to be a father? Sorry I didn't mention I was carrying your child when I left you. Please don't kill me. The man with the scar moved closer, his hand still inside his jacket. Dante raised one finger, just one, and the man froze. That tiny gesture, that absolute authority, reminded me of everything I'd run from. The power, the violence. The world where a single gesture could mean the difference between life and death. When? Dante's voice was barely above a whisper, but it cut through the ambient noise like a blade. When were you going to tell me? My throat felt like sandpaper. I wasn't. Something flashed in his eyes, there and gone so quickly I might have imagined it. Hurt? Rage? Betrayal? But when he spoke again, his voice was even colder, more controlled. How far along? That's none of your... How far along, Isabel? He leaned forward slightly, and I caught that scent again. Sandalwood and danger and memories of silk sheets and champagne at 3 a.m, because unless I'm mistaken about basic biology, that child is mine. The baby kicked hard, as if in agreement. I pressed my hand against the movement, and I saw Dante's eyes track the gesture, saw his jaw clench even tighter. 7 months, I whispered. Almost 8. I watched him do the math, saw the moment he realized what that meant. His hands gripped the edge of my counter so hard his knuckles went white. You were pregnant when you left. It wasn't a question, but I nodded anyway. You were pregnant when you signed the divorce papers. Another nod. I felt tears burning behind my eyes, but refused to let them fall. I wouldn't cry in front of him, not again. You were pregnant, and you hid it from me. His voice had dropped to something barely audible, but the fury in it made me step back instinctively. You took my child and disappeared into this... He gestured at the store with barely concealed disgust. Nowhere? And you thought I wouldn't find out? I stopped, swallowed hard. I hoped you wouldn't look. He laughed then, a sound completely devoid of humor. You hoped the most powerful man in the city, a man who controls half the docks and every judge worth buying, would just let his wife vanish? You hoped I'd give up? He leaned in closer, and I could see the veins in his neck, the barely leashed violence in every line of his body. Did you really think I'd stopped looking for you, Dolcezza? Did you honestly believe I'd let you go? The endearment sounded like a threat now. Or maybe it always had been, and I'd just been too young, too naive, too stupidly in love to hear it. Dante. Please. No. He cut me off with a slash of his hand, No more pleases, no more running. He straightened up, and suddenly the mask was back. The cold, controlled face of the man who ran an empire built on blood and fear. "You're coming with me. Like hell I am." The words came out stronger than I felt. "You can't just... Can I?" He raised an eyebrow, and with another small gesture, his men moved to flank the checkout lane. "Do you want to make a scene, Isabel? Here, in front of all these people?" His eyes swept the store, and I realized with growing horror that everyone was watching us. "Do you want me to explain to your manager why you're leaving? I'm sure Marcus would be very interested to know who you really are." My blood turned to ice. "How do you know?" "I know everything about your life for the past 9 months. His smile was razor sharp. The studio apartment in the bad part of town. The second job at the diner on weekends. The prenatal appointments at the free clinic. Each revelation was a dagger. Did you really think I wouldn't have people watching? Waiting? I was giving you space, time to come to your senses, but this..." His eyes dropped to my belly again. "Changes everything. I won't go with you." But even as I said it, I knew it was a lie. We both did. "Yes, you will." He reached into his jacket, slowly, deliberately, and pulled out his phone. "You'll come willingly, or I'll make one call and have every exit blocked, every cop in this district in my pocket surrounding this building. And then what? They'll arrest you for shoplifting, maybe. Or fraud. I'm creative, Dolcezza. I can make anything stick long enough to get what I want. You're threatening me. I'm promising you." He slid the phone back into his jacket. "You have 10 seconds to decide. Come with me now, or I make that call and you spend the night in county lockup. 7 months pregnant with my child. Your choice." Tears were falling now, hot and angry and helpless. "I hate you." "I know." His expression didn't change. 10 seconds. I looked at the exit, at the customers pretending not to watch, at Marcus emerging from the back room with a concerned expression. I looked at the phone in Dante's hand, at the men flanking him who would follow any order he gave without question. I looked at the swell of my belly, at the life I'd been trying to protect from exactly this moment, and I knew I'd already lost. Fine. The word tasted like ashes. "Let me get my purse. Marco will retrieve it." Dante gestured, and the scarred man moved behind the counter with practiced efficiency. "You're not leaving my sight again." As Marco handed me my worn canvas bag, so pathetic next to their designer everything, Dante placed a hand on the small of my back. The touch burned through my thin shirt like a brand. He guided me toward the exit with the same possessive certainty he'd once used to guide me through charity galas and business dinners, when I'd thought I was his wife instead of his prisoner. The automatic doors opened, and the cold evening air hit my face. In the parking lot sat a black Mercedes, windows tinted, engine running. Another man in a suit stood by the passenger door, waiting. "After you," Dante murmured in my ear, his breath warm against my skin. "We have so much to discuss, you and I. Starting with why you thought you could keep my child from me." His hand pressed more firmly against my back, guiding me toward the car, toward whatever nightmare awaited. And as I slid into the leather interior that smelled of money and power and everything I'd tried to escape, I realized the truth with crystalline clarity. I'd never really left at all. I'd just been on loan, and now Dante Moretti had come to collect what was his. The door closed behind me with a sound like a cell locking. The Mercedes glided through the city streets like a shark through dark water. Smooth, silent, predatory. I sat pressed against the passenger door, as far from Dante as the confined space would allow. My hands clutched protectively over my belly. The baby hadn't stopped moving since we'd left the store, as if sensing my terror and responding with agitated kicks. Dante sat beside me in absolute stillness, which was somehow worse than if he'd been raging. His face was turned toward the window, watching the city lights blur past, but I could feel his attention on me like a physical weight. The driver, a different man from the one at the store, younger but with the same lethal efficiency, kept his eyes on the road and his mouth shut. "Where are we going?" My voice sounded small in the expensive silence. "Home." Dante didn't look at me. "I don't have a home with you anymore. We're divorced." Now he turned. and the look in his eyes made my breath catch. Are we? Because last I checked, divorce papers don't mean shit when you're carrying my child. Catholic law, dolcezza. In the eyes of God and my family, you're still mine. That's medieval. That's tradition. His hand moved. I flinched. But he only adjusted his cufflinks with practiced precision. And tradition matters in my world. You knew that when you married me. I didn't know a lot of things when I married you. The bitterness leaked through despite my attempts to contain it, like the fact that my husband ran the largest criminal organization in the state. That small detail somehow never came up during our courtship. His jaw tightened. I protected you from that knowledge. For your own safety. You lied to me. I omitted certain truths. He leaned back against the leather seat, finally giving me his full attention. In the dim interior, lit only by passing streetlights, his face was all sharp angles and dangerous shadows, and you repaid that protection by running. By taking something that belongs to me and hiding it away, like I had no right to know. The baby doesn't belong to anyone. The baby is my child. The words came out low and fierce, vibrating with an intensity that made my skin prickle. My blood. My air. Do you have any concept of what you've done? What you've stolen from me? I pressed harder against the door, fighting the urge to curl into myself. I was protecting. Protecting? He laughed, sharp and bitter. From what? From me? I'm the father, Isabel. Not some stranger. Not some threat. Me. His hand shot out, gripping the headrest behind me, caging me in without actually touching me. I would have given you everything. Doctors, security, anything you needed. Instead, you chose this, hiding in poverty, working yourself to exhaustion while pregnant, risking my child's health because you were too stubborn and too stupid to come back. Don't call me stupid. Anger flared hot in my chest, momentarily overriding fear. I saw what you are, Dante. I saw the guns, the ledgers, the way men look at you like you're God and the devil combined. I wasn't going to raise a child in that world. That world is the only reason you ate every day, wore designer clothes, lived in a penthouse that cost more per month than most people make in a year. His voice was dangerously quiet now. That world is the only reason you're alive to judge me right now. Do you think your little disappearing act went unnoticed? Do you know how many people would have grabbed you off the street if they'd known who you were? What leverage you represented? Ice flooded my veins. What are you talking about? I had 6 men on you at all times. 6, watching, protecting, making sure none of my enemies got creative ideas about kidnapping my estranged wife for ransom. He released the headrest, but the space felt even smaller without the physical barrier. You thought you were free, Dolcezza. You thought you were safe. You were in a cage the entire time. You just couldn't see the bars. The revelation hit me like a physical blow. All those months, thinking I'd escaped, thinking I'd made it out. The man who'd always seemed to be at the laundromat when I was. The woman who'd started coming to the diner during my weekend shifts. The car that was always parked across from my apartment building. You had me followed. It wasn't a question. I had you protected. He said it like there was a difference. There are 6 families in this city who would kill you just to hurt me, 3 more who would do worse, and you, pregnant with my child, were wandering around like prey without even realizing you had a target on your back. Because of you! I twisted in the seat to face him fully, anger overriding self-preservation. I had a target because of you and what you do. That's exactly why I left, and yet you kept the baby. His eyes dropped to my belly again, and something in his expression shifted, softened and hardened simultaneously. If you truly wanted to escape me, you had options, but you didn't take them. Why? The question hung in the air between us, loaded and dangerous. Because I couldn't. Because despite everything, the lies, the violence, the fear, some part of me had wanted to keep this piece of him, this piece of us. From before I'd known the truth, that's what I thought. Dante's voice was almost gentle now, which was somehow worse than his anger. You can hate me all you want, Isabel. You can tell yourself you left for noble reasons, but you kept my child, and that tells me everything I need to know about what you really want. Before I could respond, the car slowed, turning through a gate I recognized with sinking dread. The Moretti estate rose before us. 3 stories of stone and glass and old money, surrounded by manicured grounds and security that would make Fort Knox jealous. I'd lived here for 8 months as his wife, and every day I'd felt like I was playing dress-up in someone else's life. No. I shook my head frantically. No, I'm not going in there. Take me back to my apartment. That apartment is already being cleared out as we speak. Dante opened his door as the car stopped under the portico. Your landlord was very understanding when Marco explained you'd be moving. Generous man. Didn't even ask for the rest of the month's rent. You can't just... I can. I did. He climbed out, then leaned back in, extending his hand. Now come. Don't make me carry you. It wouldn't be good for the baby. The casual threat wrapped in concern made my stomach turn, but I knew he meant it. Dante Moretti didn't make empty threats. So I ignored his hand, small rebellion, and struggled out of the car on my own, my pregnant body making the movement awkward and ungraceful. The front door opened before we reached it. An older woman I recognized stood in the entrance. Maria, the housekeeper who'd been with the Moretti family for 30 years. Her eyes widened when she saw me, specifically my condition, and her hand flew to her mouth. Dio mio, she whispered. Signora Moretti, just Isabel, I said quietly. We're divorced. Not for long. Dante's hand found the small of my back again, that possessive touch that sent confusing signals through my body. Maria, prepare the master suite. Isabel will be staying there. The master suite? I tried to pull away from his grip. I'm not sleeping in your room, our room. He guided me through the door, into the marble foyer that smelled of lemon polish and old money. The chandelier overhead cast prismatic light across surfaces that gleamed with daily care. And yes, you are. I'm not letting you out of my sight until we have some very long, overdue conversations. I could scream. You could. He closed the door behind us with a soft click that sounded final. But Maria has worked for my family since before I was born. The guards outside are loyal unto death, and the nearest neighbor is 3 acres away behind stone walls. So scream if it makes you feel better, Dolcezza. No one will come. The casualness of it, the absolute certainty in his voice, drove home the reality of my situation more than any threat could have. I was in his domain now, surrounded by his people, trapped as effectively as if he'd literally locked me in a cell. I need to sit down. It wasn't a lie. My feet were screaming, my back was on fire, and the baby was doing acrobatics against my ribs. Immediately, Dante's demeanor changed. His hand moved to my elbow, supporting weight, his other hand hovering near my back. The sitting room. Maria, bring water and something light to eat. She looks pale. I'm fine, I protested, but let him guide me anyway, because the alternative was collapsing on his expensive marble floor. The sitting room hadn't changed, still decorated in rich burgundies and golds, still smelling faintly of the cigars his father used to smoke before his death 3 years ago. Dante settled me onto the leather sofa with surprising gentleness, even grabbing a pillow to place behind my back without being asked. When did you last eat? He crouched in front of me, and this close I could see the fine lines around his eyes that hadn't been there 9 months ago, the shadow of exhaustion beneath them. I had lunch. What lunch? A sandwich. From the vending machine at work. Something flickered across his face. Anger, disgust, pain. I couldn't tell. A vending machine sandwich, while carrying my child, Cristo. Some of us don't have the luxury of personal chefs, and you had that luxury. His control cracked, voice rising. You chose to give it up. You chose poverty and vending machine food and a goddamn job that has you on your feet for 8 hours while 7 months pregnant. He stood abruptly, running a hand through his hair in a gesture I recognized, the one he made when he was trying not to lose his temper. Do you have any idea what it's been like, watching you through reports, knowing you were struggling, knowing you were in danger, and not being able to intervene because you'd just run farther? I stared at him. This man who I'd loved and feared in equal measure, who looked like he'd aged years and months. You could have just let me go. No. He met my eyes, and what I saw there made my breath catch. I really couldn't. Maria arrived with a tray, water, crackers, fruit, cheese. Real food, not the instant ramen that had become my dinner staple. My stomach growled traitorously. Eat. Dante gestured to the spread. We'll talk after you've rested. I don't want to rest here. I want to go… Where? He cut me off. To that apartment that's already empty? To the store that's already called in a replacement? To the diner where I've already informed them you won't be returning? He pulled up a chair across from me, sitting with his elbows on his knees, hands clasped. You don't have anywhere to go, Isabel. You have no money. I have savings. In an account that's been frozen pending investigation of suspected fraud. His expression didn't change. A call I made 30 minutes ago, along with alerting your bank that your debit card was possibly stolen and should be deactivated. The room tilted. You're cutting me off from my own money? I'm ensuring you can't run again. He said it matter-of-factly, like he was discussing the weather. I'm ensuring that you and my child stay exactly where you belong. Here, where you can be protected and provided for. This is kidnapping. This is marriage. Or did you forget the part where you vowed to honor and obey? A slight smile curved his lips, cruel and cold. I remember every word, Dolcezza. Every promise you made at that altar. For better or worse, in sickness and health, till death do us part. You may have filed some papers, but those vows, those were made before God. And in my world, that means something. I grabbed a piece of cheese with shaking hands, partly because I was starving, and partly because I needed something to do besides scream. The baby kicked, and I saw Dante's eyes track the movement beneath my shirt. Can I… He hesitated, and for the first time since seeing me at the store, he looked uncertain. Can I feel it? Absolutely not. The rejection clearly stung, but he nodded tightly. Fine. But understand this, Isabel. That baby is mine. Half mine, at least. And I will be part of its life whether you like it or not. You can cooperate, and we can figure out how to make this work. Or you can fight me, and I will use every resource at my disposal to ensure I get what I want. He leaned forward, and I always get what I want. Even if it means making me a prisoner. Even then. No hesitation, no shame. Though I prefer to think of it as protective custody, for your own good. You're insane. I'm a father. His hand moved like he might reach for my belly, but stopped halfway. Or I will be. And no child of mine will be born in poverty, because its mother is too proud to accept help. Maria returned with more food. Soup now, something that smelled rich and homemade. My stomach growled again, louder this time. Dante gestured for her to set it down, never taking his eyes off me. Eat. Rest. We'll discuss the details tomorrow. He stood, buttoning his suit jacket. But make no mistake, you're not leaving this house until after the baby is born. Maybe not even then. That depends entirely on how well you behave. And if I don't behave, I couldn't help asking, even though I wasn't sure I wanted the answer. His smile was slow, dangerous, and entirely too intimate. Then I'll have to find creative ways to ensure your cooperation. I can be very persuasive when properly motivated, Dolcezza. I seem to remember you discovering that on our honeymoon. Heat flooded my cheeks, anger and something I refused to name. Go to hell. I'll see you there. He moved toward the door, then paused. Oh, and Isabel, in case you're planning some dramatic escape attempt, don't. Every window is monitored. Every door is locked from the outside. The guards have strict instructions not to let you leave under any circumstances. This house is a fortress, and you, my dear wife, are the most precious thing inside it. He left me alone with my soup, my terror, and the growing realization that I'd just walked willingly into a prison of silk and stone, and the man who'd locked me inside still wore my wedding ring. I woke to sunlight streaming through curtains I didn't recognize, in a bed that felt like sleeping on a cloud, wrapped in sheets that probably cost more than my monthly rent. For one blissful moment, I forgot where I was. Then the baby kicked, my back protested, and reality came crashing back. The master suite. Dante's room. Our room, he'd called it, like the past 9 months had never happened. I sat up slowly, taking inventory. Someone, Maria probably, had changed me into a silk nightgown while I'd slept. My work clothes were gone, replaced by a wardrobe I hadn't authorized. The realization made my skin crawl. How deeply had I been sleeping that I hadn't noticed being undressed? The bathroom door opened, and Dante emerged in nothing but dress pants, his chest bare, hair damp from a shower. Water droplets traced paths down his abdomen, following lines of muscle that I'd once had the freedom to touch. Now they just reminded me of all the ways he was dangerous. Physically, emotionally, completely. "You're awake." He grabbed a white dress shirt from the closet, not bothering to hide his body. Why would he? He knew exactly what effect he had on me. Had always known. "How did you sleep?" "Like a prisoner." I pulled the covers higher, suddenly aware of how thin the nightgown was. "Where are my clothes?" "Being laundered, or burned, I haven't decided." He buttoned the shirt with practiced efficiency. "You'll find appropriate maternity wear in the closet. Maria had everything brought in last night." "I don't want your clothes. Then walk around naked. I won't complain." His eyes met mine in the mirror, dark and challenging. "But if you're planning to leave this room, you'll dress appropriately. I won't have my wife looking like she shops at thrift stores." "Ex-wife," I corrected automatically. "Semantics." He knotted his tie, burgundy silk that matched his pocket square. Every movement precise, controlled. The armor of a man who ruled through appearance as much as action. "As far as everyone who matters is concerned, you never stopped being Mrs. Moretti." I threw back the covers, needing to move, to do something besides watch him transform into the dangerous man I'd married. My feet hit plush carpet, so different from the stained linoleum of my apartment. The baby shifted, pressing against my bladder with uncomfortable insistence. "Bathroom's free." Dante gestured without turning. "Prenatal vitamins are in the medicine cabinet. Take them." "I have my own vitamins." "From the discount pharmacy where half the bottles are expired?" He finally turned, leaning against the dresser with his arms crossed. "No, you'll take the ones I provide. Doctor recommended, properly stored, actually effective." The casualness of his control made anger spark in my chest. "You can't just dictate every aspect of my life. Watch me." He checked his watch. Platinum, understated, probably worth more than my car had been. "Breakfast is at 8. Dr. Romano arrives at 9. I have a doctor." "Had." Past tense. He moved toward the door. "Dr. Romano is the best obstetrician in the state. She'll be handling your care from now on, including a full examination to make sure 9 months of poverty haven't damaged my child." "Our child," I snapped. "And I've been taking care of myself just fine." He paused at the door, hand on the knob, and looked back at me. Really looked, taking in my swollen ankles, the dark circles under my eyes that no amount of sleep could erase, the way I instinctively held my belly like it might protect me from him. "Have you?" His voice was quiet, almost gentle. "Because from where I'm standing, you look exhausted, underweight except for the pregnancy, and about 2 missed meals away from collapsing. So forgive me if I don't trust your judgment on what constitutes taking care of yourself." The words hit harder because they were true. I'd been surviving, not living. Working 2 jobs, eating whatever was cheapest, skipping prenatal appointments I couldn't afford. Telling myself it was worth it because at least we were free. I was doing the best I could, I know. And there it was again. That flash of something softer beneath the steel. That's what makes this so fucking infuriating. You were suffering when you didn't have to. You chose pride over comfort, fear over safety, and made both of us miserable in the process. Both of us? I laughed bitterly. You seemed perfectly fine, still running your empire, still living in luxury. Do I look fine to you? He stepped back into the room, and I saw it then. The weight loss beneath the expensive suit, the tension in his shoulders, the way his jaw was constantly clenched. I haven't slept more than 3 hours a night since you left. I've torn this city apart looking for a ghost. And every day I got reports about you struggling, suffering, putting yourself in danger. And I had to watch from a distance because the moment I got too close, you'd bolt. So this is my fault? You stalking me is my fault? It's called protecting what's mine. The control finally cracked, his voice rising. You're carrying my child, Isabel, my heir, the future of everything I've built. Did you really think I'd just let you wander around unprotected? Let you work yourself to death in some discount store while my enemies circled? I didn't ask for your protection. You didn't have to. He closed the distance between us in 3 strides, and suddenly he was there, towering over me, radiating fury and something darker. The moment you married me, you became a target. The moment you got pregnant, that target tripled in size. You don't get to opt out of protection just because you're angry about how I make my money. It's not about the money. My voice dropped to a whisper. It's about the violence, the death. The fact that I watched you order someone killed like you were ordering coffee. His expression shuddered. You don't know what you saw. I saw enough. The memory surfaced, standing in that doorway, watching him speak quietly into his phone, while a man knelt before him, begging. The way Dante had looked bored, almost. The way he'd ended the call and nodded to Marco, and the man had been dragged away screaming. I saw who you really are. You saw a fraction of what I do to keep you safe. He reached out and I flinched, but his hand only cupped my face with unexpected gentleness. That man you saw? He'd been skimming from the docks, planning to sell information about my operation to the Salvatores. Information that included your schedule, your favorite restaurants, when you'd be alone. So yes, I had him dealt with. I'd do it again. I'd kill 1,000 men if it meant keeping you breathing. The casual way he said it, like murder was just another Tuesday, made my stomach turn. But his thumb was stroking my cheek, and my traitorous body remembered how those hands had once made me feel worshipped, cherished, safe. Let me go, I whispered, though I wasn't sure if I meant physically or philosophically. No. His other hand moved to my belly, finally, palm spread over the swell where our baby grew. The touch was possessive, reverent, and completely without permission. Never again. You're mine, Isabel. This child is mine, and I protect what's mine with everything I have. The baby kicked against his hand, hard enough that he felt it, his eyes widening slightly. For a moment, the dangerous Mafia boss disappeared, replaced by something vulnerable and awestruck. Does it hurt? His voice was rough. When they move like that? Sometimes. I should pull away, establish boundaries, remind him he had no rights, but watching him experience this, the reality of the child he'd missed 7 months of, cracked something inside me. Mostly it's just uncomfortable, like someone's rearranging furniture inside me. Jesus. His hand pressed more firmly, chasing another kick. I missed this. I missed you. Do you have any idea what these months have been like? Knowing you were out there, alone, pregnant, hating me? You made your choice when you lied to me about who you were. I made my choice when I married you. His eyes met mine, intense and burning. I chose you, Isabel. Over everything. Tradition, business sense, the objections of every advisor I have. I chose a girl from nowhere, with no connections, no family name, nothing to offer but herself, and I'd choose you again. Every fucking time. That doesn't change what you are. No. He released me, stepping back, and I hated the immediate sense of loss. It doesn't. I'm a criminal. I hurt people. I break laws and bend others. I live in a world where violence is currency and loyalty is bought with blood. That's the truth, and I won't apologize for it. Then we have nothing else to say. We have plenty to say. He moved back toward the door, buttoning his suit jacket, starting with the fact that you're stuck here whether you like it or not. You can rage. You can refuse to speak to me. You can maintain this martyred anger. But you will be safe. You will be fed. You will have the best medical care available. And when that baby comes, they will be born into a life of privilege and protection that you could never provide on your own. Money isn't everything, says someone who's never had to live without it, until recently. His smile was sharp. Tell me, Dolcezza, did poverty feel noble? Did struggling to pay rent while pregnant feel like moral superiority? Or did it just feel like suffering? I had no answer that wouldn't prove his point. Breakfast. 8 o'clock. Don't make me send someone to fetch you. He opened the door, then paused. And Isabel. The house is surrounded by guards. The gate is locked. Every phone is monitored. So if you're planning some dramatic escape, save your energy. You're not going anywhere until I say so. He left. The The door closing with a soft click that sounded like a coffin lid. I sank onto the bed, hands on my belly, feeling the baby move beneath my palms. "I'm sorry," I whispered to the life inside me. "I'm so sorry. I thought I was protecting you, but maybe I just made everything worse." The baby kicked in response, agreement or protest, I couldn't tell. Through the window I could see the grounds stretching toward the perimeter wall. Beautiful, manicured, and utterly imprisoning. Somewhere beyond that wall was the life I'd been building. Small, difficult, but mine. Now it was gone, swept away by a man who believed love and ownership were the same thing. The worst part? Some small traitorous part of me was relieved. No more working double shifts, no more choosing between prenatal vitamins and groceries, no more lying awake wondering if I'd made a terrible mistake. But at what cost? The door opened again. Maria, carrying a breakfast tray, even though it was only 7:30. "Signor Moretti thought you might be hungry," she said in her accented English, setting the tray on the bedside table. Fruit, yogurt, toast, orange juice. Real food, not vending machine substitutes. He said to make sure you eat everything. "He's very good at giving orders," she smiled sadly. "He's very good at protecting what he loves, even when it looks like control." Her hand touched my shoulder briefly. "I raised that boy, Signora. I know his heart. He is not always gentle, not always right, but he loves with everything he has. And now," she glanced at my belly, "he has even more to protect." After she left, I picked at the food, my mind racing. Escape was impossible. He'd made that clear. Fighting him would only make things worse. But cooperation felt like surrender. The baby moved again, a rolling sensation that made my whole belly shift. "What am I supposed to do?" I asked the empty room. No answer came. Just birdsong from outside, and the distant sound of Dante's voice giving orders to someone downstairs, the king in his castle, and me in my gilded cage. Dr. Romano arrived exactly at 9. A woman in her 50s with kind eyes and an efficiency that suggested she'd dealt with difficult patients before. She set up in one of the guest rooms that had been converted into a temporary examination space, complete with an ultrasound machine that looked newer than anything at the free clinic. Dante stood in the corner throughout the entire examination, arms crossed, watching like a hawk. Every time Dr. Romano pressed on my belly or asked a question, his jaw would tighten. When she mentioned I was slightly underweight for this stage of pregnancy, I thought he might actually punch the wall. "It's not uncommon for women with high-stress situations," Dr. Romano said diplomatically, shooting Dante a look that suggested she knew exactly who he was and what he did. "With proper nutrition and rest, we should see improvement within a few weeks." "She'll have both," Dante said flatly. "Whatever she needs." "What I need is privacy," I muttered. But the ultrasound wand was already moving across my gel-covered stomach, and suddenly the room filled with a sound like galloping horses, the heartbeat. I'd heard it before, at the clinic, but this machine was different, clearer, stronger. Dr. Romano adjusted something, and the grainy image on the screen shifted, sharpened. There, impossibly small and impossibly real, was our baby. Arms, legs, the curve of a spine, the profile of a face. "Everything looks healthy," Dr. Romano said, smiling. "Good size, strong heartbeat, active. Would you like to know the sex?" "Yes." Dante's voice came from right behind me now. I hadn't heard him move, but his hand found my shoulder, gripping tight. "Tell us." Dr. Romano adjusted the wand again, angling for a better view. "Congratulations, you're having a boy." The world tilted sideways. A boy. A son. Dante's heir, in the most literal sense. A son. Dante's voice was rough with something I'd never heard before. Wonder, maybe, or fear. His hand moved from my shoulder to hover over the screen, not quite touching, like he might break the magic if he made contact. "My son. He's perfect," Dr. Romano continued, pointing out details. 10 fingers, 10 toes, the chambers of his heart pumping steadily. Due date looks to be about 8 weeks out, assuming your dates are correct. "They are," I whispered, unable to look away from the screen. 8 weeks. 2 months until this little person currently doing flips inside me would be out in the world. dependent on me for everything. On us, a traitorous voice whispered. Doctor. Romano finished up, giving me instructions that Dante immediately memorized. Supplements, diet recommendations, exercise limitations. When she mentioned I should avoid stress, I nearly laughed. Stress was currently standing 6'3" behind me, radiating possessive intensity. I'll be back weekly to monitor progress, Dr. Romano said, packing up her equipment. Call immediately if there's any bleeding, severe pain, or decreased fetal movement. And Isabel? She met my eyes directly. Take care of yourself. That baby needs you healthy. After she left, Dante stood staring at the ultrasound photos she'd printed. 4 grainy images of our son, captured in black and white. His finger traced the outline of the baby's profile, with a gentleness that seemed impossible from hands I knew had committed violence. A boy, he said again, like testing the words. I have a son. We don't have anything yet. He's not even born. He exists. Dante looked up, and the expression on his face made my breath catch. Raw, vulnerable, almost frightening in its intensity. He's real. He's mine, and in 8 weeks I'm going to hold him for the first time. He moved closer, backing me against the examination table. 8 weeks, Isabel. Do you understand what that means? That I have 2 months left of this prison sentence? That you have 2 months to accept reality. His hands landed on either side of me, caging me in. You're not leaving after he's born. You're not taking my son away from me. We're going to figure out how to make this work, as a family, or you're going to learn exactly how far I'll go to keep what's mine. You can't force me to stay, can't I? He leaned in closer, his breath warm against my face. I own judges, Isabel, lawyers, police. I could have you declared an unfit mother with a single phone call. Could prove you abandoned your marriage, lived in poverty while pregnant, put my child at risk, and then what? I get full custody, and you get supervised visits if you're lucky. That's not... You wouldn't... Try me. His eyes were black ice. I would burn this entire city to the ground before I let you take my son away from me. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to stay here, in this house, where you're safe and provided for. You're going to give birth to our son with the best doctors money can buy, and then we're going to raise him together, like parents should. As what? Your prisoner? As my wife. He pushed back slightly, running a hand through his hair. The divorce papers? Never filed. I stopped them the day after you left. In the eyes of the law, the church, and everyone who matters, we're still married. Those vows you took, they still stand. The room spun. You had no right. I had every right. You're mine, Dolcezza. You've always been mine. From the moment I saw you in that coffee shop 3 years ago, looking lost and beautiful and completely unaware that you'd just caught the attention of the most dangerous man in the city. His hand cupped my face, thumb brushing my cheekbone. I knew then. I know now. You belong with me, whether you're ready to admit it or not. That's not love. That's obsession. Call it what you want. He released me, straightening his jacket. Doesn't change the facts. You're carrying my son. You're sleeping in my bed. You're eating food I provide in a house I own. Every breath you take is because I allow it. Those are the terms, Isabel. Accept them or fight them. Either way, you're not leaving. Before I could respond, his phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and his expression hardened into something cold and lethal. Problem? I asked, hating that I cared. Business. He typed something quickly, then pocketed the phone. Nothing you need to worry about. Is someone going to die? The words came out bitter. Should I prepare for another execution order? His eyes snapped to mine. That man you saw, the one who made you so afraid of me. Do you know what he was planning? He'd made a deal with the Salvatores to kidnap you. Had your schedule memorized, knew which days you'd be alone. The plan was to grab you, ransom you back to me, and if I didn't pay fast enough, start sending me pieces. Ice flooded my veins. You're lying. I wish I was. He moved to the window, staring out at the grounds. That's my world, Dolcezza. That's what I protect you from every single day. Men who see you as nothing but leverage. Families who would kill a pregnant woman just to hurt me. And you thought running away would keep you safe? You thought poverty was safer than protection? I thought anything was safer than being married to a monster. He flinched. Actually flinched. And I felt a flash of guilt that I immediately tried to suppress. Maybe I am a monster. His voice was quiet now. Maybe everything you think about me is true. But I'm a monster who keeps you alive, who keeps our son safe. And if that makes me the villain in your story, I can live with that. As long as you keep living. The sincerity in his voice, the exhaustion. It cracked something inside me. This man who terrified me, who'd imprisoned me, who claimed ownership like it was love, genuinely believed he was protecting me, believed the cage was kindness. I can't do this, I whispered. I can't pretend we're a happy family. I can't forget what you are. I'm not asking you to forget. He turned back to me. I'm asking you to understand. To see that everything I've done, every lie, every threat, every manipulation, has been to keep you safe, because losing you— He stopped, swallowed hard. When you left, it felt like dying, and I've been dying slowly for 9 months, watching you from a distance, unable to touch you, unable to protect you properly. So yes, I'm keeping you here. Yes, I'm controlling your life, but it's not because I want to hurt you. It's because I can't survive losing you again. The confession hung between us, raw and honest, and terrifying in its intensity. That's not healthy, I managed. Probably not. A ghost of a smile crossed his lips. But healthy went out the window the moment I decided to marry someone who wasn't part of this life, who couldn't understand the rules, who looked at me like I was human instead of a weapon. You're both. The words came out before I could stop them. That's the problem. You're human enough to love and weapon enough to destroy, and I never know which version I'm going to get. You get both. Always. He moved toward the door. Lunch is at noon. Maria's making your favorite, or what used to be your favorite. I don't know if pregnancy has changed your taste. It hasn't. Another admission I hadn't meant to give. I still like chicken parmesan. Something softened in his expression. Good. Then you'll eat, rest, and stop looking at me like I'm going to murder you in your sleep. Whatever else I am, Isabel, I've never hurt you. And I never will. Except you are hurting me, right now. This. I gestured at the room, the house, the invisible bars of my cage, is hurting me. I know. And he did. I could see it in his eyes. But it's necessary hurt, the kind that keeps you alive, and I'd rather have you hate me and breathing than love me and dead. He left before I could respond, and I was alone again with my thoughts and the ultrasound photos scattered on the table. I picked one up, studying the tiny profile of my son. Our son. Dante's heir. The future of an empire built on blood and fear. I'm sorry, I whispered to the image. I tried to give you a different life. A normal life. But maybe normal was never in the cards for us. The house settled around me, expensive silence broken only by the distant sound of Dante's voice giving orders, running his kingdom from his throne room downstairs, and I stood in my tower, pregnant and imprisoned, wondering if there was any difference between protection and possession. Or if, in Dante Moretti's world, they'd always been the same thing. 6 weeks passed in a blur of doctor's appointments, enforced rest, and meals I didn't have to cook. 6 weeks of Dante hovering like a dangerous shadow, always watching, always present, always reminding me that escape was impossible. 6 weeks of my body changing, the baby growing, and the walls of my gilded cage becoming almost comfortable. Almost. It was a Tuesday afternoon when everything changed. I was in the garden, one of the few places Dante allowed me to roam freely, probably because it was surrounded by 12-foot walls and armed guards. The spring air smelled of jasmine and freshly cut grass, and for a moment, I could almost pretend I was free. The baby kicked hard against my ribs, and I paused by the fountain, pressing a hand to the movement. He'd been active all day, restless, like he could sense something coming. Signora Moretti? Maria's voice cut through my thoughts, urgent and strained. You need to come inside. Now. The tone made my blood run cold. What's wrong? Just come. Quickly. I followed her as fast as my ungainly body would allow, through the French doors and into the house. The sound hit me first. Raised voices from Dante's study, the kind of angry that preceded violence. Then I saw them. Dante facing off against a man I didn't recognize, with Marco and 3 other guards forming a barrier between them. "You've got some nerve showing up here," Dante was saying, his voice deadly quiet. "After what you did, I came to see her." The other man's voice was familiar in a way that made my stomach drop. "To explain. She deserves that much." I moved closer, and the study door was open just enough to see inside. The stranger turned slightly, and recognition hit like a physical blow. James, my ex-boyfriend. The one I'd left 2 years before meeting Dante, the one who'd emptied my bank account and disappeared. The one whose betrayal had left me vulnerable and alone, right up until a handsome businessman had bought me coffee and asked why someone so beautiful looked so sad. Isabel. James saw me, and his face flooded with relief. "Thank God. I need to talk to you. It's important." "You need to leave," I said, my voice shaking. "Now." "Not until you hear me out." He tried to move toward me, but Marco's hand went inside his jacket. James froze. "Please, just 5 minutes. It's about the baby." The world stopped spinning. "What about my baby?" The words came out fierce, protective, a mother's instinct overriding fear. "Not yours." James's eyes were desperate, darting between me and Dante. "Mine. Ours. From before." "Isabel, you were pregnant when you left me. Did you know? Did you—" "That's impossible." But even as I said it, I was doing math in my head, the timeline, the dates, the fact that I'd been with James right before we'd broken up. And then, no, this couldn't be happening. "You're lying," Dante said flatly, but something in his voice suggested he was already doing the same calculations. "That child is mine, is it?" James pulled out his phone, showing a photo, because I had my lawyer look into it. "Isabel left me 18 months ago. She married you a year ago, and she's 7.5 months pregnant now, which means, get out." Dante's voice was pure ice. "Get out of my house before I have you removed in pieces. I want a paternity test." James's desperation was palpable. "That's my son she's carrying, mine, and I have rights." "You have nothing." Dante moved so fast I barely saw it, grabbing James by the throat and slamming him against the wall. "You think you can walk in here into my home and make claims on my wife and child? You think I'll just hand them over because you've done some math?" "Dante, stop!" I was moving before I could think, grabbing his arm. "Let him go, please." The contact made him freeze. He turned his head, looking at me with eyes so dark and dangerous I almost stepped back. But I held firm, even as my heart hammered against my ribs. "Is it possible?" His voice was barely audible. "Tell me it's not possible." "I don't know." The admission tore out of me, the timeline. James and I were together right before we broke up. And then I met you a month later. I thought, I was so sure the baby was yours because we got married so quickly, and I didn't realize I was pregnant until... I couldn't finish. The look on Dante's face was destroying me. He released James, who slumped against the wall, gasping, "Get out. I'll deal with you later. I'm not leaving without Marco." Dante didn't raise his voice. "Remove him. Not permanently. Yet." Marco and another guard grabbed James, who struggled and shouted protests as they dragged him toward the door. His voice faded down the hallway, leaving silence in its wake. Dante stood with his back to me, shoulders rigid, hands clenched into fists. The air felt too thick to breathe. "Say something," I whispered. "What do you want me to say?" He still didn't turn. "That it doesn't matter? That I'll love this child regardless of whose DNA he carries? Because I can't. I can't say that when everything I've done for the past 6 weeks has been based on the certainty that he's mine. We don't know that he isn't, but we don't know that he is." Now he turned, and the pain in his eyes was worse than any anger could have been. "Jesus Christ, Isabel. Did you know? Have you known this whole time that there was a possibility?" "No." The word came out fierce. "I swear to God, I thought he was yours. James and I used protection, and the dates lined up with us. And I never even considered..." My voice broke. "I wouldn't have kept this from you. Not this. Like you didn't keep the pregnancy from me." The bitterness in his voice cut deep. Like you didn't hide for 9 months, planning to raise my... He stopped, corrected himself. A child without me ever knowing? That was different. Was it? He moved to the window, staring out at the gardens where I'd been standing minutes ago. Or is this just another lie in a series of lies? Another betrayal dressed up as protection? I never lied about the paternity because I never questioned it. Tears were streaming down my face now. You're the one who made me fall in love with you. You're the one who married me, who didn't tell me you were a criminal until I stumbled onto the truth. You're the one who's kept me prisoner here for weeks. So don't you dare act like I'm the villain in this story. You're not the villain. His voice was tired now, defeated. Neither am I. We're just two people who've hurt each other repeatedly while claiming it was love. The baby kicked. Hard enough to make me gasp, hard enough to remind us both what was at stake. We need a paternity test, I said quietly. As soon as possible. Agreed. He pulled out his phone. Doctor, Romano can do a prenatal test. Results in 48 hours. And if... I couldn't finish the question. If he's not mine? Dante's laugh was hollow. Then I've been playing house with another man's family. Threatening and controlling and obsessing over a child that has nothing to do with me. But if he is yours, then nothing changes. He met my eyes across the room. Except now I know that even biology isn't certain. That even the most fundamental thing I believed about this situation might be a lie. Dr. Romano came that evening, professional and discreet. The amniocentesis was quick but uncomfortable. A long needle extracting amniotic fluid while Dante watched with an expression carved from stone. She promised results as soon as possible, then left us in the suffocating silence of uncertainty. The next 48 hours were torture. Dante threw himself into work, disappearing into his study for hours at a time. I wandered the house like a ghost, unable to eat, unable to sleep, unable to do anything but wait and wonder and pray. What if James was the father? What if this entire nightmare had been for nothing? What if Dante threw me out and I ended up back with a man who'd betrayed me once already? What if... The phone call came on Thursday afternoon. Dante answered in his study, and I stood outside the door, holding my breath, my entire future balanced on whatever Dr. Romano was saying. I see. Dante's voice was carefully neutral. Thank you, doctor. Yes, I understand. Silence. Then footsteps. The door opened and he stood there looking at me with an expression I couldn't read. Well, I couldn't take the suspense. What did she say? He's mine. The words came out rough, raw. 99.9% certainty. The baby is mine. Relief crashed over me so hard my knees nearly buckled. Thank God. Oh, thank God. Yeah, but he didn't sound relieved. He sounded exhausted. Guess that means we're stuck with each other after all. Dante, I need you to understand something. He stepped closer, and I saw the vulnerability beneath his usual armor. For 2 days, I've been preparing myself to let you go. To accept that I had no claim on you or this child, that everything I'd done was for nothing. And it was the worst 2 days of my life, even worse than when you left. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, I didn't know. Stop apologizing. His hands cupped my face, thumbs brushing away tears I hadn't realized were falling. This isn't your fault. It's just life. Messy and complicated and never what we expect. He leaned his forehead against mine, but he's mine. Ours. And that changes everything, does it? I searched his eyes. Because you're still a criminal. I'm still terrified of your world. Those things haven't changed. No, he agreed. They haven't, but maybe we can find a middle ground. Maybe I can be less controlling, and you can be less afraid. Maybe we can figure out how to be parents without it being a war. I don't know if that's possible. Neither do I. His smile was sad, but I'm willing to try. For him. For us. For whatever future we might have if we stop fighting long enough to build it. The baby kicked between us, a reminder of the tiny person who'd brought us back together whether we wanted it or not. What about James? I had to ask. James is being strongly encouraged to leave the state and forget he ever knew you. Dante's voice hardened. He's lucky I got the test results before I decided to make his disappearance permanent. Dante, I'm joking. Mostly. He kissed my forehead. He's alive and will stay that way as long as he stays away from my family. That's the best I can offer. My family. The words settled between us, terrifying and hopeful in equal measure. I can't promise I'll ever be comfortable with what you do, I said quietly. And I can't promise I'll stop. He pulled back slightly. But I can promise that I'll keep you and our son safe. That I'll try to be better, less controlling, more honest. That I'll give you reasons to stay that aren't threats or prisons. That's a start. It'll have to be enough. His hand moved to my belly, and this time I didn't pull away, because in about 6 weeks we're going to be parents. Ready or not. I'm not ready. Neither am I. He smiled. A real smile this time, warm and genuine. But we'll figure it out. Together. The baby came 5 weeks later, at 3 a.m, with Dante pacing the hospital room like a caged animal, while I cursed his entire bloodline between contractions. Doctor. Romano delivered a healthy, screaming, perfect boy who Dante held with shaking hands and tears streaming down his face. He's so small, he whispered, staring at our son like he held the entire universe. How is something so small also so perfect? I watched from the hospital bed, exhausted and overwhelmed, and suddenly certain that everything, the lies, the fear, the fighting, had led to this moment. This tiny person who was half me and half him, who would grow up in a world of danger and privilege, who would never understand how complicated his existence was. What should we name him? Dante looked up, and the love in his eyes was so fierce, it took my breath away. Something that means hope, I said softly, because that's what he is, proof that something good can come from something broken. Asher, Dante said immediately. It means fortunate, blessed. Asher Moretti. I tested the name. I like it. Our son, Asher, made a small sound, and Dante's entire face transformed with wonder. This dangerous man, this criminal who'd imprisoned me and controlled me, and claimed to love me while doing terrible things, was completely undone by 8 pounds of tiny human. I promise, he whispered to Asher, I'll be better for you. I'll try to be the father you deserve. Even if I never quite manage it, we'll both try, I corrected. That's all we can do. Dante looked at me then, really looked, and I saw our future reflected in his eyes. Imperfect, complicated, probably involving more arguments and tears and compromises, but also love, the dangerous, consuming kind that had brought us together and torn us apart and somehow brought us back again. He leaned over, careful of the baby between us, and kissed me. It tasted like salt and hope and new beginnings. I love you, he said against my lips. I know I'm terrible at showing it. I know I hurt you, but I do. I know. And I did. That was the problem and the solution all at once. I love you too. Even when I hate you. Even when I'm terrified. I love you. That's going to have to be enough. It is enough. I touched Asher's tiny hand, marveling at his perfect fingers. We'll make it enough. And in that hospital room, with dawn breaking outside and our son sleeping between us, I chose to believe it. Chose to believe that love could exist alongside fear, that protection didn't always have to mean possession, that we could build something real from the wreckage of everything we'd broken. It wouldn't be easy. Nothing with Dante Moretti ever was. But as he sat beside my bed, holding our son, and looking at me like I was the only thing in the world worth protecting, I thought maybe, just maybe, we had a chance. And sometimes, a chance is all you need.